Welcome to the Creative Me podcast, coming to you from Guernsey in the Channel Islands. This is episode 33, an interview with Elna Cain. Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Creative Me podcast. Today I'm delighted to bring you an interview with professional writer and blogger Elna Cain. Hello, it's Martine here. I'm very excited to bring you an interview today. So I'm not going to give anything away. I'm just going to say, hello Elna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Martine. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I actually really love your podcast, and I've been listening to it as a devout fan for a while now. So this is really awesome for me.
Oh, that's nice to hear. That's lovely to hear.
Yeah, I've been doing the dishes and listening to your podcast, so it was perfect. My name is Elna Cain, and I blog over at twinsmommy.com. I share a lot of tips to help moms or stay-at-home moms or mom bloggers become successful mompreneurs. So starting your online business. So I sort of, say my title is more like a blog and growth strategist to help moms. And I just love learning about ways to attract your audience, grow your traffic, and build your brand.
Fantastic. And we're going to talk in a moment about writing for the web specifically, but the sort of things that you're interested in are exactly the sort of things that my listeners are interested in. So I'm sure we're going to get some real value. So regardless of whether you're a mum or not, you're going to get some value out of this for sure. Mm-hmm. Fab. Okie dokie. So what we said, we had a few emails before we got on Skype together, and what I thought would be a great idea for us to talk about is writing for the web. So I'm thinking, people who might be bloggers already or are thinking about blogging, or alternatively people with online businesses who need to write things like sales pages for their websites. So let's have a chat about what you need to do to write really good copy for the web.
Yeah, I think that's a big challenge for a lot of new bloggers, but as well as established bloggers. You think you have your blog and you can start writing blog posts, and the expectation is that people will just come to your blog, will come to read your content, will come to share and comment and do all those lovely things that you want. But for a lot of people that start a blog or that have their blog posts, they're missing a couple ingredients to attract the right audience, or to attract really anyone to come to your blog. And one of the first things that I've learned, I've been doing online writing for about two years, almost 3 years. One of the first things that I picked out early on was finding your audience and really understanding who you want to write for. That's, for me, the biggest challenge for a lot of people. And even when I started my blog on Twins Mommy, I changed my audience a couple of times before I found the right sort of recipe to get the audience that I want, the shares and the traffic that I want, and then I can give them the content that they seek.
Oh, that's such a good point. Recently on my blog, I wrote a post, which I'll link to in the show notes, about your ideal customer avatar. And I'm sort of finding that every single thing I do online, whether it's writing or podcasting or designing a new product, it all starts there, doesn't it? Who is your audience member?
Yeah, it does. And it's so funny you mentioned sales page. I was just thinking, I'm updating my sales page for a course that I have, and I want to change the message on my sales page, because I find that the message that I have already is attracting a little bit of a different audience that I want. So I'm right now trying to rewrite my sales page so that I can find that right audience for my course. And it's a challenge to think about, well, what are their struggles? What am I missing here? And One of the things that bloggers can do, marketers can do, is actually ask people out there, ask on social media. So, what I did is I asked a question in my private Facebook group. I asked them, I said, what made you buy my course? What was it that you were struggling with? And I got some great feedback. So that is helping me write my sales page. So I think that's what you need to look at is, go on to Facebook groups, see what people are talking about, what their struggles are within your niche, and then you can sort of develop that content to attract them.
That's such a good point. If you can actually use the vocabulary that these people are using in your copy, in other words, they kind of write your sales page for you. If you use words that they would use, they're going to resonate immediately, aren't
Mhm.
they?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the same thing with blog posts too. You can write sort of what you hear on social media. And it's also like finding your voice as well, figuring out the style that you want to write in that resonates with your audience. If you write for millennials, well, you're going to have a little bit of a different vocabulary on your blog than if you're writing for, moms in the corporate world. It's going
Totally.
to be a little bit different. It's still your personality, it's still your voice, but you still have to sort of mold your voice to fit your audience as well, I find. Um,
Definitely, I completely agree with you.
mhm,
And if you've come from like a business background, you're used to writing in a really formal way and getting out
mhm.
of the habit of writing formally but still writing grammatically correctly. It's
Yeah.
really tricky, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's something that you have to learn as you're blogging. Um, but yeah, finding your audience and discovering their pain points, I think, is key. You want to, I read a lot of blog posts from a lot of people, and they're so excited to get their blog post up and running. But when I'm reading it, it's very, what's the word? Not selfish, but it's more like for them.
Yeah, me,
It's
me,
not
me, me, me,
for
me,
me.
me. Yeah, I know exactly
Yeah.
what you mean. Yeah.
And you can create content that is about you, but that's also helpful for other people. So you have to sort of recognize that if you want to share your trip about Disneyland, well, make sure that you also offer tips to help other moms or other families about going to Disneyland and how to save time or money or whatnot. And that's a pain point maybe for people that are traveling to Disneyland, right?
Yeah, brilliant. So it's not all about you when you're writing. People do want to know about you, but there needs to be
Mhm.
something in it for them, and that's absolutely right. And I think that actually translates to writing for your email list as well. You've got this one audience member in your head, your ideal audience member, and you need to write in their language directly to them and not be all about you, be about them. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
email. Yeah, email is a completely different medium, and I don't always struggle with email, but at the same time, I do a little bit as far as delivering that exclusive content that maybe isn't found on my blog or that can help them because they are giving up their email address for me. So I want to make my email list a little bit more personal, right? That is to help that core audience on my email list. So that for me is a little bit of a struggle, but I'm learning. This is all a learning process for me. And so I want to
Definitely.
get my copy better and better and better each time. And it's always listening to your audience, listening to your followers
I,
is the
th-
key.
I think that's such a good starting point. So we've touched on knowing who your audience is, and we've said a little bit about finding your voice.
Mhm.
What else could you what other advice could you give someone who's maybe struggling with writing their blog posts or writing copy for their website? What else do you think that you could help them with?
Yeah. Another struggle that I find bloggers have, or even content marketers, is finding topics for your blog post. You in the beginning, you're rearing out to get out there and you have a ton of ideas. And then for some reason, the next month or the month after, you start to lose wind and then you're struggling to find, well, what should I write about? Um, Things that you want to pay attention to is you want to sort of stick to these like classic types of blog posts that are popular online because they work. Types of blog posts that are more informational. So how-to blog posts, creating content around of teaching people how to do certain things, how to grow certain things, how to, just the basic how-tos. Because when you think about it, people go online because they have a problem, right? So they're trying to find the solution. So if they can go to your blog and say, "Oh, I found all my answers on this blog. This is awesome," then you know that you're helping them by providing these sort of how-to type of posts. Another
Brilliant.
post, yeah, and another type of post that's real popular. There's several types of popular posts that I've been playing with. So I'll give you a couple of them that have worked for me. Another type of post is actually being more authentic, so being more transparent. People, they're not nosy, but they really like to learn from others and they want to see what you're doing. And they also want to see, it's kind of, I don't know, they want to see also your failures too. They want to see what's not working for you so that they can learn from you and do better. So if you can provide that on your blog, sort of like a case study of what you're doing, um, is it really attracts a lot of people because, everyone is learning from everyone else. And, don't think that you're not, I always say don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20. Even though I've been blogging on Twins Mommy for less than a year, I'm still attracting people that are a little bit before me. They're just starting out, but then there's bloggers that have massive years beyond me, but I'm not attracting those people. So you have to sort of stay within what you know to help people that don't know as much as you.
That's a great suggestion in terms of the types of posts to write, because I must admit, if I'm surfing Pinterest and there's an article that says things I wish I'd known before I did this type heading, I always click those. I can't help myself. I'm just nosy. I want to know what went wrong. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a type of post that works. How do you find, I quite like list posts. I like lists of resources and things like that are all in one post. Do you find they work well for you?
Yeah, it's amazing how I think I read some kind of statistic, maybe it was a year ago, that there aren't enough list posts out there, which is kind of funny because I see a lot of list posts, but they are quite popular. They do, what's nice, I think people click on these big list posts that are, 175 ways or 95 ways and whatnot, because it's all in one place. So if you can like bookmark that blog post that has all these sort of resources or tools or steps or strategies, then they can just frequent that blog post when they need it. And I've done that on my blog. I've done a couple of list type posts. And right now that's circulating. For some reason, it's been picked up a little bit on Pinterest and on Facebook. Is I have a post on 16 free tools to help you grow your blog. I found that finding anything that's free is, budget friendly, for a lot of bloggers is what they need. So I rounded up some free social media tools, some lead generation tools and whatnot, and that's picking up nice and people love it. I was surprised. I just wrote that sort of one night and there you go. A couple months later it's popular now. So
I,
that's
lo-
kind of
I love a list. I really enjoy writing those types of posts.
neat.
And
Yeah,
any
oh,
others?
sorry.
That's all right. No, I was just going to say any other types of posts that have been working well for you
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah, I was just going to mention one more other post was roundup posts seem to be real popular now. Um, and not only to help you grow your traffic, but also to connect with other bloggers and other people in your niche. I started doing that early on with Twins Mommy because I knew the value a sort of roundup can be. And there's two types of roundups that you can do. You can do sort of a roundup of almost like curating content. So you're rounding up the best of the best type of whatever. So I have one of the best blogs for mompreneurs. So I list all the great blogs that I've learned from, and that's sort of like a big roundup of those blogs. And then I can go after it's published, I can go and either tag them on Twitter or I can email them personally saying, "Hey, look, I featured you on this blog post. Would you mind sharing it to your audience?" And usually I get a great response from that. They do. They will do that for me. So that's awesome. Another type of roundup post that works well is actually getting contributors to write the content for you. So I've been doing that a couple times lately, and one of my biggest one is I asked 40 different moms how they juggle their day, with running a business and having kids. So I got all their perspectives on this big blog post, and there was no limit to, their response. So I mean, this I'm thinking this blog post is probably over 4, 5, 6,000 words, but it's highly, valuable, and I can tell by the responses people are reading that. So those types of posts really do well as well on Pinterest, on anywhere on social media.
There's some great suggestions there for different types of posts. I love that. When you're trying out all these different types of blog posts, I want to ask you about headlines, the heading for your post. How do you come up with a headline that, for example, if it's seen on Pinterest, people are going to want to read? Do you have any tips in that regard?
Yeah. Yeah, there are a couple tips you want to pay attention to when you're creating your headline. As a copywriter, I sort of have to pay attention to, sort of like engagement kind of type of headlines. What I found is you want to use certain like power words or words that will attract people. And those can be sort of things like using like the worst, or using words that are like genius or hacks. These are sort of like power words that sort of speak to people. A big one for me is using the word secret. Again, it's getting that person, it's that hook that you want to sort of get that curious out of them, that curiosity out of them. And if you can use those words to get them, interested, then your headline will become a clickable headline, and they'll click over and they'll read it. So I find using certain types of power words, or even emotional type of words. So like I was saying, the worst. People don't want to be the worst at blogging, or the worst mistakes you can have at, skydiving for something, like they want to figure that out first. So using those types of words really help. But also you can use templates. There are templates out there that can help you form your headline. And I've used them in the past, and it's not like you're cheating or anything, but there are resources out there that have sort of a template of the most popular types of headlines. So you can sort of plug in your keywords in there, and there you go. You have a clickable headline. And so I've used those in the past as well.
Another great tip. I tend to run my headlines through a free tool from CoSchedule, and they've got a headline analyzer. So it's the CoSchedule headline analyzer, and it just gives you, it kind of tells you roughly if it's a decent headline in terms of the power words that you referred to, and the length of the headline and things like that. It's quite a nice tool. It's never really going to truly gauge how emotional it makes the reader feel, because it's just generated automatically, but it's quite a good starting point. I don't know if you've ever come across that one before.
Yeah, for sure. I think after you've created your headline, you want to test it out. So one thing you can do, is use CoSchedule's headline analyzer. There's even another one, a marketing. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to give you the resource to that, but it's a marketing one where it's the emotional headline analyzer, and that's also nice. You can base your headline off of that, so it gives you sort of the emotional effect of your headline. Based on a certain type of audience. And I found that helpful. But yeah, I'm always surprised when I put my headline, my headline in CoSchedule. I'm like, oh, is it going to be an A+ this time?
I know. I'm so
always
competitive.
worried.
I always want an A+. Nothing better.
Yeah.
But,
I know. So yeah, I'm always like checking that out every now and then. But after a while, I sort of like I have to not do that, because it becomes a little bit more like focused on that. And you have to provide value in your posts. It's ultimately your content that is what's reaching people once they're there, right? So
totally. Tell me about search engine optimization for writing for the web. Now, I know a little bit about SEO, but it's definitely an area for development for me. And to be fair, we could talk for hours about writing in a search engine optimized manner. But for people who are fairly new to the concept, can you offer any tips about SEO and writing for the web?
Yeah, there are a few tips. I'm not primarily an SEO writer. I'm also a freelance writer, so I have clients, small businesses that hire me to write content for their blog. And out of the 2 years of writing for these small businesses, I think only one has specifically asked me to use keywords. So keywords is not like those aren't really a big driver for these small businesses. But that could be just my niche. I write for digital marketing, but if your niche is more like a home decor writer, then you might have clients that specifically ask, can you please put these keywords in your posts? So when you have something like that, or if you want on your blog, if you want to sort of have that drive, what I can suggest is using Pinterest actually. since I get a lot of my traffic from Pinterest, a lot of people go to Pinterest now to search for things. I think of it's more of a search engine than a social media platform. So when I do any of my sort of SEO things, I do it on Pinterest. So optimizing my profile seems to be a big help. I've gained like thousands of followers, and I'm not sure if it's because of my keywords, but I can only suspect that it's based on the descriptions that I have in my pins and on my boards that are attracting them. So when I think of my niche of blog growth, traffic growth, I you can quickly just write or type that into Pinterest, and Pinterest will give you suggested keywords based on that. So, for example, if I put in freelance writing in Pinterest, it will suggest freelance writing for beginners, freelance writing, finding freelance writing jobs, all those little keywords. Well, those are great keywords you can put in your pin descriptions. Those are great keywords you can use for your pin boards. And that's what I do. I try to find keywords within my niche on Pinterest. So if it's working online, so I type in work from home, and it gives me all these different work from home for moms, stay-at-home moms working online, just various keywords that I will just plug into my descriptions. As far as my blog posts, I don't focus on SEO, and that could be my downfall. Right now, I'm relying heavily on social media to bring traffic to my blog, but I know that to get that longevity of my blog, I need to focus on SEO. And Google is picking up. It takes time for Google to find your blog. I always suggest, wait 6, 7, 8 months because you need content on your blog. You need pages on your blog so that those little Google spiders that come and crawl all over your blog, they need that content to see. So people are, in month 3 of blogging, like, why am I not ranking in Google? I put these keywords in my headline, but you're too new still. You have to wait. My other blog that I have for 2 years is finally ranking now after 2 years of pumping content. Now I can search, freelance writing jobs for beginners, and boom, there are my posts right there, like on the first page of Google. So it takes time. I say rely on Pinterest in the beginning. So as a new blogger, rely on Pinterest to put those keywords and get yourself in there. And then as far as your content, don't focus so much on keywords. I say focus on value. You can use keywords in your headline. For example, I've been doing a little bit of affiliate marketing. So I will put the name of the product in my headline. So, ConvertKit for mom bloggers. So I have that. Will that rank in Google? Probably not, but at least it might help people on Pinterest if they're typing ConvertKit. For bloggers, maybe they might type that into Pinterest. They might get my blog post then.
Some great advice there, particularly for new bloggers who are desperate to get found on Google. And you're absolutely right. You're going to have to be a bit patient. And as you rightly said, keep pumping out the content for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
Have you got anything else you'd like to share with my listeners in terms of tips for writing for the web? We've covered some amazing stuff already.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I think you want to sort of have this nice experience on your blog post and even on your blog as well. But that's a whole other topic of getting your blog really nice for your audience. But as far as your blog post, you want to have sort of this nice experience. And what I equate to that is more of the formatting of your blog post. Like I was mentioning, I am a writer for the web. So, my clients expect a certain way of writing my blog posts. And I learned that quickly because it's part of my service-based business, how to write an effective blog post. And if you want to sort of have that on your blog, I think the biggest thing you want to consider is having white space on your content. So what that means is making sure that you have breathable space between your paragraphs. So having shorter paragraphs, using bullet points, lists, having images, separating your content so that when a reader is going through it, they're not skimming it, first of all, because if it's a big block of text, it's kind of hard to read online. But they're experiencing your content. They're reading it. They're looking at your images. They might be clicking over to things. You're using subheadings, again, as a way to break up your content and have more white space. That's an experience for the reader to go through, and they know what the expectation is now. Now you're going to talk about this. I find that using those formatting tips of headlines, using images, bullet points, and breaking up your paragraphs so they're easier to digest really helps a reader actually sit and read your post. And then they're able to give a really good comment. I don't know about you, but I like comments that are valuable. I don't want people come in just to get that comment link or that backlink of, oh, what a great blog post. Yeah, I don't, I personally like someone that invested in my blog, and then I can create a conversation on my comments.
Definitely agree with you there. Most of us write blogs, even if it's predominantly for our business. We want to establish some sort of community, and community is about two-way conversation. So I totally agree with you. A value-filled comment that I can respond to is definitely preferred.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know about you, like when I start a blog or when I am blogging, I don't want to have sort of like a diary on, a dead blog where no one comes to my blog, no one engages. You really want to have that community. And whether you start a Facebook group, whether you do other ways to build that community, I still feel like it's nice to have that engagement on your site. But there's other that could beg to differ. They might rely heavily on email marketing and they could care less about having comments on their blog, and that could be effective. But for me, since I'm a blogger as well as a writer, but more of a blogger, I want that. I want that engagement on my blog post. It really helps with social proofing online. That people say, well, whoa, this blog has a lot of comments. This has a lot of shares. This must be a popular blog. And is that vanity? Not really, but it sort of shows that social proof that I have something here and it's valuable and people seem to like it.
I think it's harder these days to get comments on your blog because so many people will read your blog through a link on Twitter or on Facebook or something like that, and they're much more likely to tweet you or comment on
Hmm.
your Facebook post than actually go and leave a comment on the actual blog post. It's definitely more difficult.
Yeah, it is. It really is, Martine. And that's why you have to really go back to your audience. Yeah, you have to go back to sort of finding that challenge, that problem that they're having, so that they really will come to your blog post and really will read your post so that they can comment on it. I'm always surprised. I have been putting a little bit more of like affiliate marketing posts on my blog. And I know for a fact that those types of posts are just geared to make commission. So you're not going to get engagement on that post. You're the one who's sharing it. You're the one who's trying to promote those posts, right? So you can get some commissions. So it's not expected to have massive comments, but for some reason I'm getting, my basic start a mom blog post, I'm getting people just commenting on that post. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, thanks, thanks for, telling me that it's a great tutorial and, whatnot. But they want to comment on my post, I guess, to start some kind of engagement. So I'm quite surprised by that either whatever I've set up on my blog, that they've realized that this is a valuable blog. I have a challenge on my Elna Cain list, but that's also because I have a smaller audience. Most of my audience are from email, so I have a lot of return visitors. I think my statistics on that are 36% of people on my Elna Cain site are return visitors versus my Twins Mommy blog. It's only 20%, I think. So that's a big difference that I'm attracting people that are followers of me on my Elna Cain site, and I'm fine with that.
Excellent. So much value in there, Elna. I really appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that we've come full circle by saying that it's about knowing your audience. If you're going to absolutely nail this writing for the web stuff, it's about knowing your audience and knowing about where they come from and who your visitors are on your blog and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that's definitely a key takeaway, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's okay if you don't know in the beginning. I didn't know in the beginning for my Twins Mommy blog. It was a brand new blog, so I had to find ways. And it's just through blogging and figuring that out. Like I said, looking on Facebook groups, looking for people that are asking questions about your niche, and then finding that content to help them.
Fantastic. Elna, thank you so much for that. We're going to wrap things up, but before we do, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on twinsmommy.com where I share, tips to help you grow your blog traffic, your income, and your list. If you're interested more about like the writing for the web and freelance writing to get paid as sort of as a service-based business, my other blog is Elna Cain at elnacain.com. I also have a course for bloggers and aspiring writers called Write Your Way to Your First 1K, which is a great course about just getting your freelance writing business up and running, finding clients, attracting clients, to get you onto your first 1K and beyond that.
And I have to say, this is how I met Elna, because I've done the course. So I can certainly agree with you that it's an excellent course, and I highly recommend that people check it out. Thank you so much for your time today, Elna. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.